Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Monday the 17th of September. So, well, we ended up with a really bearish sort of candle there on Friday, but it didn't break Thursday's lows. It's sitting there on the weekly pivot at the moment, and if you come down to the 4 hours, you can still see the higher lows, higher highs that was being pitched in there. It is quite an ugly candle though that we saw on Friday. On the dailies, and the 4 hourly is not looking pretty at the moment. It's almost bearish flag territory, but are we going to see a bounce? It's really between a rock and a hard place here at the moment. We've got above it, we've got the daily pivot, which is a possible draw with a 50, 34, and maybe a continuation to that upside. That's the potential to the upside. To the downside from this sort of flaggy pattern, if you'd start breaking down where we got support into the 200 and maybe the 500 and prior highs there, so there is potentially some support down that way. So it may be a slow a difficult path to the downside, but it doesn't look wonderful for how it's sitting at the moment, and that may be the way it runs. But I'm torn on it at the moment, which means I'll probably be leaving it until it really shows its hand, and we really need to. The daily pivot, as much as it becomes a nice target sometimes, it's no point just taking it because it's below its daily pivot at the moment. We need to see a reversal, and I'd much rather it come from something more significant, a nice bit of support, even if it's on the lower time frame. So we'll have a look at that. But for now, it needs to show its hand. My preference still would be the bigger picture upside, but if it starts rolling over, well, we may be looking down towards that S1 area even. Cable's been keeping in a reasonably good shape here on the dailies here. We had a bearish day on Friday, but not quite a shooting star, but it left it with quite a bearish look at the moment even from these 4 hours. With the weekly pivot sitting below us, it could look to roll over towards that area, and well, we'll see post 8 o'clock how it starts moving, but it has a reasonable target down to that sort of point. Even if it gets down there, well, at this point it may be a bounce area, because you've got this is the most recent low, significant low, and then before that back here. So even if it hits this one here, sorry, I'm going to draw that badly, but you can see it won't be breaking the low. So if you find support around the daily S1, it could still be due a bounce, but not looking great at the moment. If it breaks that 34 alternatively, well, we could be back up for some further upside. There has been some reasonable data coming through over the weekend regarding Brexit in terms of potential deals at borders in Ireland and things like this. So well, we'll see how things shape up. But it's always a bit of a mixed bag at the moment, and as I said last week and the week before, there is risk. Have taken a couple of pound trades more recently with smaller positions, but there is both ways on it in terms of some speaker just suddenly saying something and it moving the market. Technically, sort of bearish flag, it looks like it could roll over, and we've got, as I say, probability of it running back towards that weekly pivot at some stage. Certainly a possibility, but still in a bullish mode overall, bigger picture. Dollar yen. Dollar yen's also been bullish in a bigger picture here at the moment. It's continued its run up north there. Come down the 4 hours again though. Well, there's a bit of divergence sort of sitting across. Maybe let's have just a quick check on that. Yep, divergence sitting across there. Not perhaps on the MACD there, but certainly on the shorter time frame RSI there. It's got a bit of divergence kicking over. It could start rolling back towards its weekly. It's bang on its daily at the moment, but not really looking like it wants to roll at the moment with this more bullish bar. If it does start pushing up this morning, well, R1 area, Friday's highs and the R1 area would be target sort of areas near term. May have bigger targets above that to push through. It'll be its monthly R1 there as well, but it could, as it starts pushing on, run back towards those prior highs that we saw in July. Okay, Not much else on the dollar yen. I'll come on to the news in a moment. Sorry. Aussie dollar. Well, that was a bearish pivot swing. It's popped in there over on Friday there, so it's left it in a sort of a bearish state, really, for me. In this big picture, when you see these pivot swings, they occur quite frequently, and we often see a bit of follow through. But as I say, it's a bit of a mixed market, and I've got sort of the thoughts on some of these markets that they could be popping back upwards. It's sitting right at the moment on its 4-hourly, on the 4-hourly chart here. It is sitting right on its weekly pivot there. Now, if it can break through the 8 and 21 there, well, maybe more upsides possible. It has got the daily pivot above there. That may be just a short-term draw. It's not really worth trading to that as a target at the moment. It's got a few pips in it, maybe, but actually it has extended the potential there now. We've had some more volatility over the last few days, so it has got the potential pitching up towards that area. Where, if and when it gets there, where to? Still not really well. I mean, it may be just drawn by dollar selling as opposed to anything else. There is a trend line across the lows here. You could be drawing on, and break of that may see a run down towards the S1. I'd much rather see that daily pivot hit first if I was looking to trade it, though. Canadian dollar saw a bit of a bounce there, and again another pivot swing sitting in there from Friday. It hasn't been triggered, but it has got the weekly pivot above, which may draw it, and in which case it would get triggered then on that side. It's not really the last week there was a bit of divergence kicking through during the end of the week there. May see further upside. It's nicely off this daily pivot at the moment, and the weekly pivot and the R1 could be good targets for that. So maybe see further upside on the CAD there, the dollar CAD. Okay, finally, let's just run through the news today. Then we do have not a lot really. We've got the final CPI data out for the European region. Which has very little impact because the data's all been released and this is the final data, so it tends to have less impact at 10 o'clock, if any. Beyond that, well, there's very little. The Canadian foreign securities purchases and the Empire State Manufacturing Index for the US and Canada, they do not really create lots of volatility in the market. So quite one on the data front. On the speakers front, we'll see. May get some volatility induced from them. Have a great day. Bye for now.